here's one more place you can look for inspiration on how to do an awesome pitch. For that, let's turn to the late, great Steve Jobs, probably the best pitchman ever in the history of the planet. So here's Steve standing in front of a humongous screen and hundreds or thousands of people in the audience here to hear him sell them something. All right, note in the background how few words are on the screen. That's going to be a recurring theme. Next, note that when he's showing off the product, it's sparse. He's showing off the product with no words on the screen whatsoever. Apple is known for making beautiful objects, and when showing them off, all they need to do is take a photograph of them. If you don't have a beautiful product to show off, well, then you can do what I did with Concrete Battery. You can go online and you can find awesome photographs. Next, note that when Steve is talking about big ideas and big numbers, what's on the screen are big numbers, humongous numbers, 60, 70, 80 point numbers. And the only thing else on the screen in this case is 4 words to help describe what on earth that number means. And just look how far away those words are from that number. That number really is there to pop and stand out. Sometimes there's just a big picture behind him. This was a moment at one of Steve's talks when he was talking about Apple being the intersection of technology and liberal arts. Great. So he could have just said those words, but instead someone made the picture of the intersection of 2 roads, in this case San Francisco road signs, because he did the pitch in San Francisco, attention to detail, of technology and liberal arts, right? And no, they didn't go as far as putting road and street and whatnot. They kept it as simple as possible. Every once in a while, however, Steve does want to talk about features. And when he does that, you will get a bullet list. Do note, there are no bullets on his bullet list, and he will walk down this list. He will talk about this chip. He will say the words 32 gigabytes of storage and quad band, but he will not read down this list. He will simply talk about the 5 major features of this chip in this case, and his script will include the 5 key terms that are on this list. Again, when he's talking about the price of the product, what's on the screen is the price, and in this case, we don't even see the product. Or if he's talking about the product, then we'll see the product. And in this case, they like to do products in multiple colors, and so we'll see the product replicated in multiple colors. Beautiful images, professionally taken of their products. Now, Steve can go on for an hour like this, with lots of slides, very few words, and at the very end, he will not simply disappear into the sunset. He will thank you for coming. The words thank you will show up in big type on the screen, and then he will walk off to a large amount of applause. So what makes Steve such a great presenter? It's really just 3 key ideas. 1, keep it simple. The stuff that's up on the screen is as bare bones, as minimalist as possible. It's just there to be like the picture behind the person on TV. In fact, he is the guy on TV in this case. And no, he never turns around to look at it. He may put his hand up to show it off, but he's not looking at it, you are. Second, he's really, really terse in what he says, not just what he puts out there on the screen. Just to be clear, go back and watch one of these. They're all available online. You will hear Steve pause a lot. He will talk about a topic, and then he will take a few breaths and stop and let it sink in. This is one technique that I teach to everybody who comes to any of my programs, any of my classes, and gotta say, almost no one ever does it. What you need to do is tell about a topic, tell about the problem, and then stop and take a breath. Not 2 breaths, because then the audience might start thinking, but just 1 breath. And if you're nervous as you're presenting, what this will come across inside your head is, oh my God, I'm rushing through it. But to the audience, it will make you seem calmer and more confident. You're confident enough to stop and leave the audience hanging for just a moment. And go back again, watch what Steve does, and you'll see he's great at this. He'll say, and the product is just $4.99. 2 beats, and he's on to the next topic. Lastly, what doesn't come across, right, unless you really look at it, is how much he has practiced these pitches. A lot of people think he was just the greatest pitchman ever and he could just step out of bed and do one of these without practice. Well, It's not true. Now, you may think, how on earth do I know this? Well, because we've seen Steve pitch somewhere else. Well, Apple decided a few years ago that they wanted to build a new headquarters, this gigantic spaceship-shaped ring inside Cupertino. And just like any other construction project in any other city, anywhere in this country, in order to get a building permit, you have to go and pitch someone in government. Well, and I say, you got to pitch them. So who shows up at the Cupertino City Council to pitch the new Starship headquarters of Apple? Steve Jobs. So here's a screenshot from that pitch. And again, you can go and look up this pitch online as well. And what you'll see is that clearly Steve may have run through this once, but he did not run through this presentation the way he does those big giant presentations on stage. Because when you watch this Steve Jobs present this plan to this city council, he comes across just about as well as most pitches I see in the first run through. Right? So, proving that this is something you learn how to do, this is something you master, it is a skill, and the key to doing it well, really simple. You practice, and you practice, and you practice.